Well, the difference between those perspectives is when I'm going to talk in general here because I might be it might be offensive if I talk specifically, but I'm going to talk in general, which is that um, I've had friends who are women who are older who didn't have children, and quite a few of them work with children, and they say, well, all of these children are my children because I don't have any of my own, so I want to help them all and I love them all equally, and that's the problem, right? Because when you have your own kids, equality disappears because your own kids come first. They have to, and that's the difference. It's not that it's not that you it's not that you don't understand what it's like. It's that you don't have a preference, and living with the preference is different from living thinking that I want to treat all of these people equally. Because when my kid, look, if my son's playing a game of football, I want him to play a good game of football. I want everyone to play a good game of football, but I want my son to score. Right? I want my son to score more than I want the other kids to score. And I don't want the other kids not to score. I want everyone to score, but I want my son to score more. And
because he's your son.
Yeah, because my son.
And you're probably feel after.
Yeah, and you want to have that sort of that shared experience, that little victory which doesn't mean anything to anybody else except you. Yeah, and so that's the difference of having kids, which is suddenly you have to make preferential choices for the betterment of your children over other people's children. And you have to leave other people to make their own mistakes. Because you realize, hopefully, that you can't tell other people what to do with their kids, because if someone comes into your house and tells you what to do with your kids, you're like, fuck you, you dick. Right? And not meaning that in an offensive way. Just meaning that in the, I've got my own way of doing things. I'm still going to listen to your advice. If I asked for it, I'm still going to listen to it because I don't know everything. But I'm going to do things
my way.
Yeah, I'm going to do things my way because I have to make my own mistakes. And hopefully they won't be too big. There will be some, but hopefully they won't be too big. So that's the issue between those who have kids and those who don't have kids. It's that suddenly there are huge preferences that you have naturally, and you have to learn to deal with that. You have to learn that you want to treat everybody equally, but it's just not practical. Like because you realize that there's a competitive element to life, and that later on in life you don't want that equality because you want your child to get the job because they're the best person for the job. You don't want it to be given to somebody else. Right? And because if they give it to you just because, I don't know, because you're a black Asian woman, for reasons of diversity rather than a more qualified person from any other category, it's wrong. To include holistic principles, to include is to exclude. Yeah, you don't want to, like, you go into a supermarket and look at food, look at bread. Do you want all the bread to be equal? No, because you go in there looking for the best bread. It's
the best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's natural. So you go to buy a car. you don't want all the cars to be exactly equal, because you're out there looking for the best car for you, and so yeah, I had people say to me in the past, "Oh, you'll understand differently when you'll have kids," which was really degrading thing to say to somebody. I think that, oh, it'll be different when you have kids, or you'll think differently, because it doesn't tell people why, right? Because I think you have to explain to people why something is the way it is. Otherwise, nothing makes sense. And um, it's just preferences. It's just human preferences that things that are closer to you seem to and usually do matter more than other things. Yeah, the people who are closest to you are going to have a bigger effect on you in general than the people in other places. Although technology is changing that. So, and think about how we lived 200 to 300 years ago, where everybody was in a small town or a small village, and your life was predicated on that environment or the industries or whatever existed there, and you grew up there. Your friends were from there. You married somebody from somebody from there, and that was it. So few other opportunities and choices. Um, Now that doesn't take into consideration happiness, because maybe people were happier doing that
Right.
because maybe that was what worked for them. Maybe that was all that they knew. Maybe they didn't know anymore. But I like to think that with a more worldly perspective of things and the ability to go to different places and see different things, that we are more, I don't know, culturally aware and sensitive to different people's issues and ideas. Although living in this region of the north of Scotland right now, you have to wonder. Like so I called this. I told you I had this problem with my bank. So I called this uh, solicitor lawyer company yesterday, and the person said, "Oh, can I get your number?" So I gave them my number, and they said, "Okay, well, I'll call you back when I get some information." I said, "You can't call me. Can you send me an SMS? Because I don't like people to call me, because my time is organized. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't spend any time waiting for anybody.
Mhm.
I will do something, and I'll finish it. And I'll go on to the next thing that I want to do, and the next thing that I want to do. It's my life, so
Yeah.
my choice, right?" And so I said, can you send me a message?" "Oh
Yeah.
no." Oh, and they said, "Oh no, we can't do that." I said,
Why
"Well,"
not?
and I said, "Why not?" And they said, "Well, we've only got a we we can only call from the phone that we have." And I said, "To be honest, I find that very prehistoric." Uh, and the person was really offended that I said this, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I said, "Well, look, I said, look, it's the year 2020. You're talking about a
Mhm.
system that existed 100 years ago. You expect me to use your company, but you're using this outdated system. I wonder how much else you've got that is outdated, right?" So, but it's the truth.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
it's
It
the
is.
truth. Right? I don't.
Mhm.
I'm I'm not worried about offending people when I know that I'm telling the truth, because if nobody says anything, it's worse. If everybody
Mhm.
shuts up and no one says anything when somebody knows something which is true, that's
And for
no.
it to close.
Yeah, yeah. Then inevitably the end point will be bad. Nothing will progress, and somebody has to have the courage to tell the truth, or even the slightly overinflated ego sometimes, which I try to keep in check, but that can cause the same thing to happen, but for different reasons. People with a huge ego can have massive positive effects on other people, just because the people with the ego say what they think, but they might still be wrong, but that's for the wrong reason, and that'll get you into trouble in other ways. But it's just living in this region and saying, I call a company and the company's like, no, we can't. Um, no, we can't do that. Or another company that I said we can't help you with this legal thing because you're not our client. And I said, but if you agree to help me with it, then I pay you
Yeah.
money and I become your client. Oh yeah, but that's not how we work. And it's like, well, you won't ever have any new clients.
Mhm.
It's like, do you, so it's like they're working to make sure that they don't have any clients. Um,
Like
and yeah,
what?
well, I said to the person on the phone, I said, you realize there's a circle there, right? You realize that you can't help me because I'm not your client, but I can't become your client because you can't help me because I'm not your client. You realize that that's a circle of turning away customers. And the person's like, well, that's the way that we work, and so, and these are businesses, right? These are businesses. So, look, I respect the fact that they exist, and people are doing those jobs, but uh, or like I call one company, and one company, I asked how much is the price for this, and one company said £30, another company said £40, another company said £90. Another company said 100 and something pounds. And the company that was the most expensive, I said, I called a company before you who said that they would do it for £40. Now, if you will do it for less than £40, I will choose you. And
Mhm.
the person said, oh, no. So, okay, well, I won't choose you. Okay, so, welcome to the free market. That's how it works, right? So I
Mhm.
understand, I understand that there's different levels of services and different prices, and quality is more expensive than other things. I understand that, but it it we need a consumer-driven market in order to understand the value of everything. Because if people don't want anything, then then you need to know that so that you can change your business and improve and provide a service that people do want rather than a service that people don't want. Which is why government should stay out of things, because government has no idea what people want because it's so far away from reality. It's unbelievable. So, um, hmm. Anyway, what was the point? The point was about people should be more aware of things perhaps happening in other places or outside of outside of localities, and we have the ability in the modern world to reach out and connect with
Mhm.
people from everywhere about everything.
Yeah.
90% of the websites for
Mhm.
companies here have no
Mhm.
contact information on them. You wouldn't believe it. They don't have a telephone number or an email address on their websites.
So how do you contact them?
On their website, there's a little box and it says, write a message to us here and we will reply to you. Yep,
Okay.
yep. And that's turning away clients and customers. That's turning them away because I don't do that, or I can't do that because in my workflow system, and I'm a thinking person, in my workflow system, I send emails from my email account to people, so I've got a record of everybody that I've communicated with.
Mhm.
So if I want to find out my communications, I just put the name into the Gmail and it tells me all my communications there. If I'm writing a message on this person's site to them, there's no
You have not.
there's no record of that message at all. I've worked with people and I've needed to send them documents or things, and I'm like, okay, I'll go to their website and get their address, and or their email address, and it's not even there. So, so once again, they are turning away clients and customers because of this approach that they have, which is which is very very limiting, and there's a lot of um, there's there's a lot of there's a lot of madness. I just have to deal with a lot of madness in the businesses here. There's a lot of just people doing things which are obviously the wrong thing to be doing, but obviously nobody has told them what the right thing is, so they're quite happy to continue doing the wrong thing. Um, there's no logic. That's my point. I suppose at the end of the day, there's the, or people have their own logic, which is different from actually having real logic. So that's worth understanding. The sun has come up now, and
Yeah.
it's a sort of pale yellowy orange, reflecting on um, the rippling blue sea, which is really nice out there. It's not on fire like it was last week, but there's it's like a warm haze, but it's not warm. It looks warm, but
Looks.
it's still cold outside, I think. Anyway.